be a long night.
Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome to our April 5th City Council meeting. It's good to see a full house today with all the young guys and girls just waiting for recognition and for the great job they have done. Okay, we will call this meeting to order, and I have Scott Smith to lead us in a moment of reflection. Do we have Scott Smith? Okay. Scott Smith not here. We will move on to our flag salute. I would like to ask Councilmember Diaz to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call indicates that all council members are here. We will start this council meeting first with the proclamation. So I would like to invite Laura Robinson. Are you receiving this proclamation? Okay. Okay. Sideways. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. This month is the Earth Awareness Month. April 22nd, 2017 is the 47th annual celebration of Earth Day and brings many community events that draw attention to environmental concerns. Earth Day originated in 1970 and became recognized worldwide by 1990 as a long-term endeavor to build a planet that would be clean, healthy, prosperous, and sustainable. Cities make major contribution to addressing environmental concerns by operating recycling, waste reduction, pollution prevention, hazardous waste, storm water management, water conservation, and water recycling programs, along with the special events that depend on citizens' understanding and participation in order to be successful. Therefore, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Escondido, hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2017 as Earth Day and the month of April as Earth Awareness Month in the City of Escondido. Thank you. This is a proclamation.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura Robinson, Program Coordinator for our city's Recycling and Waste Reduction Division. I'm so grateful to our department specialist, Lisette Hurst, and I'll have her come down and get the little slideshow ready. Thank you. And my program assistant, Lori Calvert, come on down, for their help and expertise in organizing this, the 25th Annual Earth Day Poster Contest and Ceremony. Also, we'd like to thank today's volunteers, Donna Hoddle, Courtney Zeese, Sarah Reel, and Michael Robinson. And I'll have Michael Robinson come down. He happens to be related to me, and he's roped into this every single year. So thank you, Michael. The contest theme is Choose to Reuse. We encourage the students to incorporate items into their art that might have otherwise ended up in their trash or recycling bins. And as you will see in a few moments up on the screen, the results are amazing. As always, we are heartened by the creative and enthusiastic response from the young people of Escondido. Our contest is open to all kindergarten through 8th grade students in the public and private schools in Escondido. You students, all here, are the top 30 entries. You represent the top 30 entries of all of the poster entries we received. Our judges included city employees as well as our special guest judge, Mara Bed. Your posters have been displayed in the City Hall lobby for the last 2 weeks, and copies will soon be exhibited at the Children's Museum, right across the street. We have a link under the recycling tab of our city website so you and your friends and family can view all of the posters on our Facebook page. Check out our Instagram page as well. It's titled @Escondido Recycling. Rebroadcasts of this City Council ceremony will be aired Sunday and Monday at 6 p.m. on AT&T U-verse Channel 99 and Cox Channel 19. And that information can also be found on the city website. We are so grateful for our generous sponsors. Every finalist will receive both a snow globe with a picture of your poster inside, Lori's holding it up, as well as a notebook with a photo of your poster on the front cover. First through third winners and their teachers also receive Target gift cards. Every teacher will receive a custom gift with a photo of their winning student's poster on it as well. Immediately following this ceremony, we ask that all of the students follow Sarah, come on down. I have my own sign twirler today, and her sign out to the fountain for photographs. Keep showing it all around so they get it where they need to go. So please, when you leave here, you're going to go right out the doors to the fountain. We got to do the pictures before the food, okay? Thank you. So your original posters are on display under the dome outside. Many of you already saw that. And we encourage you to take your posters home after the party today. Okay, let's begin. I invite the mayor back down, and we understand that council has a full agenda today, so we'll plan on moving through efficiently. At this time, if I can have all the students come on over to the, actually it looks more open over there. How about that side? Is that okay? All of the students that are being honored today, if you can get yourselves over to that side, that would be awesome. I'm sorry if we told some of you to go over there. It looks like there's more room. Students and teachers, we ask that you listen for your name. Please come up when called to shake the mayor's hand and receive your certificate. Lori will hand you your prize bag, and you will line up along the dais right here with Mr. Michael, standing in front of your teacher if he or she is present. Mr. Michael will help show you where to stand. When your group has all been called up, we will pause for a very quick moment for photos. So family, have your cameras ready, but remember, we have a lot of time outside for pictures, okay? So we'll go ahead and begin. These are going to go in that order. Sorry, and I made it over here without my little list. I beg your pardon. Game show, but not as rowdy, more fun, exactly. Okay, first up we have Justin Hernandez from Escondido Christian. Next, Alberto Gonzalez, also from Escondido Christian. Here you go. Avery Watkins from Escondido Christian. Gavin Sartwell from Escondido Christian. Look at Gavin, he's a front and center here. Jocelyn Saavedra from Far Elementary. Mrs. Rodriguez is the teacher, and Mrs. Conway is the teacher for all the Escondido Christian students. Israel Guerrero, Mrs. Ramos from Far Elementary. Come on over. Whoops. Israel's coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, sure. Thank you. Yes, much more efficient. Tyler Heaton and Mrs. Zabinski from Grace Christian School. And our third place winner from the K through third category, K through second, I beg your pardon, K through second category is Paige Torok, Mrs. Conway, Escondido Christian. The little hedgehog. Oh. So we have Allison Ricidi is second place from Escondido Christian. And first place in this age category is Grace Cruz from Far Elementary, Mrs. Rodriguez. Here she comes. Okay, so Lisette's going to take a picture there. Good job, Grace. Congratulations, everybody. We're going to take one quick picture. Thank you. And then we're going to move on to the next group. Thank you, guys. Why don't you wait up on the side there? Or go back and sit. Thank you. Hi, Tyler. Great job, everybody. We're on to the third through fifth grade category, and I'm calling up Mackenzie Tullius from Mrs. Conway's Escondido Christian. Next up is Nathan Beck from Escondido Christian with Mrs. Conway. I have next up Jaretzi Diaz, Mrs. Sandoval's class at Far Elementary. Jaretzi. I love it. I love it. So then we have Ashlyn Christie, Miss Silides, St. Mary's School. Oh, she's on crutches. Here she comes. Congratulations. She's moving at a clip. I next call Alessandra Favela, also from St. Mary's School. Miss Silides class as well. Oops. Next up is Josiah Ramirez from Orange Glen Elementary, Mrs. Lissack and Mrs. Curtis. So if those teachers are here, come on down with your students. Thank you. Next up, Novalie Taylor from Miss Francis's class at North Broadway Elementary. Here she comes. Awesome. So now our third place winner in this category is Julia Lazarino, Mr. Boyce from Bernardo Elementary. Second place is Carly Summers from Mrs. Conway's class at Escondido Christian. And first place winner in this category is Abigail White from Miss Salazar's class from Lincoln Elementary. Wonderful. Okay, kids, another picture. If your teacher's here, you want to get in the picture. There we go. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Get near your teacher if you can. We'll do that real quick, and Lisette's taking one. And remember, we'll have time outside, and this group will ask that you kind of wait here. Don't go outside till we all leave. And that's it. Yep. Okay, our last category, folks. We're in the 6th through 8th grade category. Thank you, kids. Congratulations. First up is Avonlea Conway from Escondido Christian. Then I have Sophia Adair, also from Escondido Christian. Mackenzie Brusso from Escondido Christian. These are all Mrs. Conway students in the red shirt. She's a repeat customer. So we have next up Cameron Morgan from Escondido Christian. Oh, he's not here. He's not here. No worries. Thank you. How about Devin Bolger from Escondido Christian? Hi, Devin. Is it Bolger or Bolger? Bolger, thank you. Okay, may I please have Tyler Zoe from Mr. Brady's Heritage Digital Academy class. Hi, Tyler.
So far, the guys are outnumbered.
I think so. Here I have Ekrayim Kanj from Mrs. Quick's class at Bear Valley Middle. So if I could have Professor Quick come up front. Yep, thank you. Hi, so you go ahead. You've got your gift there, and your teacher will stand with you. And then I have, in 3rd place for this category, is Madison Little from Mrs. Quick's class at Bear Valley Middle. I'm on to the 2nd place winner. It's James Eric Smith from Professor Quick's class at Bear Valley Middle. And our last and final 1st place winner is Dahlia Balderas from Miss Sutphin's class at Heritage Digital Academy. A big thank you to the mayor and council and all of the families for participating, and especially to the teachers who really helped make this extra special. This is our last photograph. Squeeze on in. Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay,
You're
good.
becoming very efficient.
Good.
Thank you.
Faster and faster. So reminder, all students and family out by the fountains. Thank you.
They're getting better. It used to take 1 hour. And I said, guys, cut it down.
Almost half hour. Not too bad, 20 minutes.
Oh, good. That's fine. That's a good moment for the kids.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think next time we should all be down there.
That's fine. Anytime. Absolutely. That would be good. Yeah.
Give them high five.
Yes. Okay, we are going to continue our meeting to oral communications. I have 2 requests. Catherine, please come forward.
I'm Catherine Fromm of 907 Luna Vista Drive. I was born in Escondido and raised in Escondido schools. I know a lot about Escondido. I'm a bit of a historian of Escondido. In a way, I'm glad the kids aren't here to hear this, but we had sunset laws in Escondido. If you were here long enough, you would have known that. And that means by 6 o'clock in the evening, African Americans had better not have their body in this town. If you grew up here, you knew that, you eventually understood it. And that does account for the kind of dismal population numbers we have of African Americans here. Not in Oceanside. The great Oceanside, Carlsbad, halfback, C.R. Roberts, African American, decimated everything in the North County in the 50s. He kind of got even with Escondido and Fallbrook, Vista, and all those towns that didn't really like his kind. I can't stay here this afternoon. This is my husband's birthday. But I'd like to tell you that I oppose police cooperation with the immigration forces. And I think I do so for good reasons. I think this has been a racist enough community that we should try other.
Ma'am, you cannot talk about this issue because it's on the agenda.
Well, I'm going to say a couple things.
Right.
One is, I didn't know that, thank you. One is that, first of all, Obama deported a lot of people, which the Trumpeteers don't seem to understand. They don't understand a lot of facts. Secondly, in fact, I know a family because I tutor, the father got deported. Secondly, the numbers coming from south of the border are smaller and smaller all the time, which sort of negates the reason for having this sacrosanct wall, which will be a nice contract for a lot of people. And the numbers we have in immigration are now really from Asia and various parts of Asia, which are illegal. And so I think we should be very careful about what we do. I tutor and work with students every day. They are resilient. They are good little kids. They don't show the effects of discussion that they may have had at home, and I'm not asking any questions, including what their status is, although I do occasionally know from various sources, including that I give a scholarship at Escondido High School for my family. And my family, my grandparents ranched in the East Valley, and they were like a bus station for people and workers who stayed in their barn and every other facility we had on the property. So I ask that you not approve the extensive cooperation with ICE immigration, which I think a number of us, a number of people, are all too anxious to have. I think we need better solutions. We need to concentrate in this community on the problems with gangs and the problems with activity in the schools, which I think are a problem.
Thank you for your comments.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Patty Thompson.
I came up here to give you guys a hard time. Sorry. I really do care about you. But I do also care about the problems that we're having with the homeless encampment over off of between El Norte Parkway and the 78 freeway. So Caltrans went out after hearing about it in one day, and they cleaned up by the freeway, which is great. But nobody seems to be able to clean up the rest of it. I think it's been about a week and a half that I posted on Facebook a message to the mayor. And I think that it's a relevant problem, and it's causing our families, 400 families on one side. I really didn't take into account how many other apartment buildings were in that same area. You'll have to forgive me because I'm nervous. So I think that's upsetting that we have to deal with this. And I mean, I sell real estate, and actually I feel bad. Usually I really feel like Escondido is a really wonderful place to live, probably because I'm living on the outer edge, and then I only come in for what I need and work and sell properties in nicer areas. And I think what we're not paying attention to is the people that are lower income, who don't have the money to or the voice to speak. And they've been dealing with the situation, this mile-long trash pile from El Norte Parkway to the 78 freeway. And apparently there's another one over under Harmony Grove. The Harmony Grove Bridge over off of Hale. It's another homeless encampment. So now I was just there this morning, and as I walked down there by myself, which I shouldn't do, there were people, legs sticking out of bushes, just people living under there. And I thought it was not okay. It's not okay that we are a city council and then citizens that are paying tax dollars to clean this up. It's not clean. It's really gross. And people are unsafe. And those families are right on top of it. And right next to it, where the photos are that I took, is an elderly home. And I even have a message from a community member who pulled her mother or grandmother out of the elderly home because the homeless break in, steal things, pee. It's not safe. It's not healthy. And so these other families that are sitting right next to this, adjacently to this homeless encampment that is literally a mile long, they're unsafe. Their children cannot go outside, right outside of their apartment complex. The edge people right there and all around, anything reachable is stolen. They have break-ins. This has been recorded. This is not new. The one person told me they've lived there 7 years and it's been this way the whole time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Mayor, just a brief comment. With respect to the 78 Tail Norte, I'll have to check that out, and I appreciate your remarks. And if you'd email me tomorrow, I'll work with you directly to get that one taken care of. The other one over on Harmony Grove, I found out this week, there was a delay on that one because it was an understanding it was on public property. It turns out that one was not on public property. Right. It's on private property, so code enforcement was notified, and my understanding has been in contact with the owner. Should be cleaned up shortly.
And just a general comment, if somebody wants to complain about something, the best thing is to send an email or call me personally. Then that's the best way to do it than going into
people did call you personally, and there have been no return phone calls.
Mrs. Thompson,
there have been no return phone calls.
It's not going back and
forth.
This
has been going on for a week. Not one person has been returned.
Your time is up.
I understand my time is up.
Right.
But I also understand I was answering you.
It's okay. Now, please go and take your seat.
Okay, it would be nice if you would return phone calls and emails.
You. Okay.
Okay.
For the record, somebody complained about this encampment before the social media took into this and start talking about it. We received a couple of calls, according to Bernadette. She here, one call a week before the social media started on this, and we took action. The process started then. I return every single call. 90% of the posts related to me and to the city are false. Nobody has called me, ma'am, you're not going to come and speak again. Okay? No, you're not going to speak again. You need to leave the podium.
You have not returned any phone calls.
Okay, ma'am.
That is a lie.
Ma'am, okay.
And I'm on record.
Ma'am, your time is up. You're disrupting the meeting.
Arrested.
You
but you
are.
cannot say that you returned anybody's phone calls.
That's true.
When it did not happen.
Check the records. Check the records. Check the phone records.
Prove it.
Right, prove it. You
I
can.
want to see your proof. I want to see your 90% proof.
That nobody called
I
about
will make sure that this is on Facebook.
It's awesome. You need to
So
leave the podium.
you need to make sure
You
you
are
don't
interrupting.
lie sitting there as my mayor.
You are interrupting the meeting. Please leave the podium. Please.
Don't lie.
Please leave the podium.
I'll come up if you lie again.
Okay, just go. So,
may I maybe diffuse this a little? There are always social media posts. Sometimes I take screenshots and forward them to whoever I think can address them. And we know this issue is of significant concern, but it is not a one-time fix, right? We will clean it up again and again, and a lot of things will keep happening, and we have to just stay on top of it. And it's a challenge. But the only way we know sometimes is for people to report it, and then we try and address it.
If I may just interject, one thing you should keep in mind, council members do not have direct authority over city staff. So I know folks like to reach out to their elected officials, and our elected officials do an excellent job of forwarding things to us.
We did.
But to avoid miscommunication, contact the city manager's office. We'll get it taken care of.
Olga, you're absolutely right. I think when somebody wants to do it, instead of coming in front of City Hall and taking videos and posts, I don't do business on Facebook. I need the facts, I need the communication, and every report from the community, I forward it to staff to take action. And that's what we did, that's what we will always do.
But there are a lot of ways to communicate with us. Some people have our personal cell phone numbers, some people are our neighbors and they come over, some people we go to school and their kids are in school with our kids. There are a lot of ways that we gather information, we all do it, and all of us channel it to hopefully the right person on city staff. But it's not a one-time deal. It is a constant task for us on a lot of issues.
And we're going to continue to take care of this problem. I asked Bernadette yesterday, we got 2 calls on this issue because I wanted to respond through emails and phone calls. I don't go and check a political Facebook page. And we have to be, if you want to solve the problem, you did today a good job, Ms. Thompson, that to let us know about other issues. That's the way to solve the problem. So we appreciate your comments. Councilmember Masson.
Thank you. Just one more comment. We do have an app, Report It, and that's a very effective thing for graffiti, trash, homeless camps, those kinds of things. So that's another tool that you can all use to report this stuff to our staff, who will get on it when they can.
Right. Okay, Councilmember Morasco.
Actually, Mr. Masson said what I was going to say in regards to Report It. It's what I like to use probably more than anything else. And the irony of the comments that were made is, out of the 5 of us here, I think the one that has been the most vocal about encampments and homelessness and issues like that has been the mayor as far as trying to get this resolved. I think we all have the same common belief and desire to help work on these issues. And I know a lot of times communications may not be pristine, but there's a lot of information going back and forth and a lot of information being passed on to staff in hopes that they will be able to get boots on the ground and get it taken care of in an effective manner.
And also to verify that people are calling me and we're not responding, go and take a public record of my phone and the city emails and the city phones, and that will address the allegation. With that, we're moving forward. Okay. Consent calendar. Item 10, council members, it needs 4 votes for the emergency repair of the sewer pipeline. So just want to make sure that we get the 4 votes. Anything to be pulled from the consent calendar? Okay, I don't have any. A motion to approve. I have a motion by Councilmember Masson and a second by Councilmember Morasco. Please vote.
5 yes votes.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to our current business, City Council response to AB 805. Me and Council Member or Deputy Mayor Masson, we put this on the agenda, and basically, let me see here, this is item 11.
You should also have 2 staff reports on these 2 items that are distributed on the dais.
Yes, we do have also a staff report. Basically, AB 805 is sponsored by Assemblywoman Gonzalez. That really has triggered a lot of concerns by the SANDAG board members. SANDAG board members is represented by 18 cities and the county. We have worked well together. We understand the projection issue, and we have hired a special auditor to do that and make everybody accountable. That doesn't mean that SANDAG has not been working well on a bipartisan basis. I have had a petition signed by 16 signatures from the board from 15 cities and the county, and we will do a press conference on April 14. Basically, what AB 805 is aimed at changing the existing governance structure at Sandag. The bill will change the balance of power, polarize the board, and disfranchise many cities from the collective decision-making process. It also disfranchised the smaller city. That's why Solana Beach, Imperial Beach, Solana Beach and Del Mar have signed the petition against it. It basically gives a selected few cities on the board a disproportionate majority voting advantage and is an overreach by the state of California. This is unprecedented overreach by the state on local government, and that's why we have it on the agenda of the April 14 on the executive committee and also on the board to oppose that bill. This is nothing but a political grandstanding by Assemblywoman Gonzalez, and I think she's using the problem with the over projections to really pass a bill to break down this bill. Some of the bills that some of the items proposed in this bill is to eliminate the tally vote and keep it at the weighted vote. That will disfranchise Escondido and most of the cities. She also wants to raise the cap of the percentages to 42% and also give Chula Vista an 8%. So the City Council of San Diego and Chula Vista will be making the decisions for the entire county. Also, the chair and vice chair has to be from these two cities, and mayors from each city has to be represented. I think also in overreach. The city council decides who's going to be represented on Sandag. Many cities did not choose to send the mayor, and I think that's also an issue. And also, I agree with number 4, establish a standing audit committee that will address the problem that has arisen from the probably overestimating the revenues in Sandag. That has merits, but to bunch everything else and say, I'm going to give it to the labor union supporter to spend every dollar on Sandag on public transportation is wrong. I know the process. I've been in Sandag for 10 years. We started with the Transnet 1 and 2 that has been passed by the voter. We spent third of the money on local roads, third on freeways, and third on public transportation. However, because of San Diego is growing so much, we added trolley lines and added, the I-15, MTS and NCTD buses. Then we have compromised, and now our general plan, the Move San Diego Forward, has 50% of the funding on public transportation. We compromise on that, and we understand that we need public transportation dollars. Under Proposition A that failed by the voters, it was 75% of the money would be used for public transportation. But the opponent of the freeways and roads, I don't know how can we bring containers from Mexico on a bicycle, on a trail. We need those freeways to bring goods and create jobs. We need the public transportation. We need the bike path. We need the whole infrastructure that Sandag have worked well together to create. And now this is nothing but a political approach to give the City Council of San Diego majority and the City of Chula Vista the voting power on everything. Escondido has benefited millions of dollars. We get $3.5 to $4 million a year out of that, and it is a concern to all the cities. Even the 3 cities that they haven't signed the petition yet will have to go back to the city council, and after they get the opposition, probably it's going to be close to a unanimous opposition from the board. Every city is putting this on their agenda to take a formal position. That's why me and Deputy Mayor Masson put it there. So, John, if you want to add something.
No, I just got to turn me on.
Okay.
The mic.
Sorry.
Turn the mic on. I think you summed it up well. It's just a classic overreach of Sacramento getting into our business. from my perspective, we need to maintain local control. If these votes go down to San Diego and the downtown area and Chula Vista, we won't see any more road money. We won't see any more transit and bikeway money. We won't see any of it. It'll just stay down in southern San Diego. So this is really an overreach of the Sacramento bureaucracy trying to take what we should be controlling. So I would make a motion or whatever we have to do to take a stand against this bill.
To oppose AB 805.
Oppose it very much.
Okay, Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. Well, I actually went and pulled the bill so I could read it, because a lot of the times what comes across in translation is only a version of what bills actually say. So I wanted to be sure that I understood what portions of this affect Escondido and how they affect Escondido. And so I'd like to address a couple of comments first. That Sacramento's overreaching. Sacramento's not doing anything to us. Our local representative, who's from San Diego and represents a portion of our county, has proposed this. Assembly member, but Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher. But it's not Sacramento sending us something. It's somebody generating an idea from the San Diego area that affects a lot of San Diego communities, right? So from that perspective, it is initiated locally. And the reason that this issue is being addressed in this manner, which I am not 100% in agreement with, but I'll get to that, is because Sandag had a significant and long-standing breach in their calculations of very, very important information that does affect us, right? And
I'm not aware of this.
As a community, chose not to support the newest tax. I unanimously, all of us chose not to support the newest tax proposal. But and many over years, especially Councilman Gallo, has repeatedly said the reasons why he hasn't supported previous tax proposals from Sandag. And usually it's about not increasing taxation or giving our tax dollars to an agency that then doesn't reallocate them necessarily back to us. So we have a lot of things that we're in agreement about with Sandag. But the blow up with Sandag happened, and I'll tell you how it happened. A very smart young man who does news reporting for Voice of San Diego and was assigned to cover Sandag and the tax issue, and just, it was his assignment to write about this, to educate the public. He wanted so desperately to understand what he was reporting on that he started learning it so well that the things that didn't make sense to this young man turned out to be a big frickin' problem. And all of the experts of Sandag and all the money we're paying all these experts and all of the elected officials who are supposed to provide oversight, guys, that's our job. And we do it pretty well here. But when you go to this bigger organization, it's a smaller version of Sacramento. You guys say this all the time. Local control. Well, who had control, right? So this thing that was uncovered that has snowballed into something that we have significant concerns about and should, it needs to be dealt with. So Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez proposed something to address an issue that seems, from my distant perspective, because I have never been assigned to be a representative to Sandag, from my distant perspective, it seems like I haven't heard of enough action from within the governing board, within the people that do go to Sandag on behalf of the communities. What are we doing? What are you guys doing to hold Sandag staff accountable, right? You don't have to answer me, but that's what it feels like, you know? And I'm watching, so she's addressing something because somebody has to. Now, what I like about the proposal is the audit committee. I think that is a very significant and important committee that should somehow make its way into the governance structure. I don't necessarily like the weighted voting, but I recognize that weighted voting is what we have now in our JPA with the San Diego River Park. We're a smaller agency than the county in San Diego, so we have a lesser vote. And so I'm looking at this going, okay, well, I don't like to have less power for Escondido at the table when we're talking about transportation projects, but I also recognize that other agencies pay more than we do and benefit more than we do, right? So these things happen a lot. I mean, it's not an unheard of structure. So am I upset about it? I'm not upset about it, but I also don't think that we should give up additional weighted voting. You know, weighted voting in and of itself is not enough. We don't do it at the national level. We don't really do it at the state level. And I don't think that we should use that weighted portion as something that gives more power to any other community. We're all in this together. Transportation, the whole point is that we are all in this together. Our residents work in other cities residents work in our city. We all need to have mobility addressed. But what I want to hear is what we are going to do in the absence of this bill to achieve accountability. That's the part it's void. And if it's not coming from the board, then there's going to be another way to achieve accountability. So I'm in support of sending a letter with our request for modification. I think we should keep the audit committee. I think that is critical. I think that's important. I don't necessarily like the idea of having the mayor of San Diego always be the chair, but I think what she was trying to accomplish with that is stability, because the chair is a rotating position, and let's be frank, not everybody who's held that post has been really the most sophisticated or qualified person to hold that post, right? So how do we accomplish that? And I also, personally, and I know you think it is, I don't see this as a labor union grab, because the power would go to the mayor of San Diego, who's Republican, and the chair of the board of the county supervisors, who's Republican. I don't see those as union affiliated or supportive people off the bat. I see them as all moderate and pretty, and the people that hold those posts now are pretty, I think they're pretty modest, or what do you call it, middle of the road. So I don't feel like this is as bad as you feel like it is. And that's why I went and read the law to see what it actually says it's going to do. And of the things here that I think we should support are the audit committee. There's some things to do with NCTD that give Escondido actually more influence, because again, it's weighting by population, and we're bigger than San Marcos, and we're bigger than Vista. So, some communities get more power, some communities don't have it. But there are things in here that are intended to fix stuff that's not working so well. So if you're not going to fix it internally, somebody else is going to come along and fix it.
Okay.
So that's how I feel. So I don't want to send a letter opposing this. I would rather send a letter saying these are the things we would like in terms of modifications that are good for the long-term structure of Sandag.
Let me address a few issues, because they are not really correct. They're not giving the power to Kevin Faulkner. They're giving the power because Kevin Faulkner has his rep. They're giving the power to the city of San Diego. City council is represented there, and they are giving the power to the council majority where they vote. Kevin Faulkner does not attend the meetings. He has the council president there and the city council. He's giving the power to the city council in Chula Vista. That's one. I do agree with you that the projections were off. We do sometimes over-project our sales tax. We sometimes under-project our sales tax. So the question is not because we overstated that. I think you're right. I always try to be more conservative in our projection, but we had two models to use, and you should see the chart they used to do the projection. They did the projection. We have two economists, Marnie Cox, I respect very much, and another new one that came in. Both have different projection. If the economy has grown at 3%, the revenue would be at the $18 billion as intended. If the economy grew up at 1.5%, which is the average the last 2 years, then we would end up with 14 billion. But the question of accountability, you're absolutely right. Did they hide this from the board, and did they hide that from the voter? But I did updated the council on the Sandag board action. At the executive committee, we decided to send it to independent investigation and find out whether there was an intent to hide it from the board. The board has supported that unanimously, and then the independent investigation will be done to address this problem. At the same time, the board directed the staff to use a different model of projection that is more realistic. So we have addressed the problem. There is no need for outside committee. If they want an outside audit committee, I'm all for it. But why are you changing and disfranchising Del Mar, Encinitas, Solana Beach, all these cities, and giving the power to two cities? This is really not right. And Olga, with all due respect, when 15 out of 18 represented on the Sandag signed the petition to completely oppose it, that means they understand that we're working fine right now, and that's why we feel strongly about it. Councilmember Gallo.
Well, first of all, I don't think Measure A failed because of the amount of money that was supposed to be raised. Okay?
Right.
That was not why it failed. The reason why it failed was because the south end of the county prefers more transit, so they like the amount of money being spent on transit. North County, on the other hand, likes their cars more.
So they didn't vote for the transit spending and the environmental spending. And so they didn't get the percentage of votes that they needed for the Measure A to pass. Assemblywoman Gonzalez Fletcher, is from the, I think she's from Chula Vista, right?
She was born and raised in Vista.
But
So she's from North County. She represents South County.
if she was from North County, she'd be representing North County, but she's from South County.
Right.
And so in order for her to appease her constituents, what does she do? Okay, let's bifurcate this voting thing and, let MTS pass their own bonds and let North County Transit pass their own bonds, and we'll change the structure, the governance structure of Sandag so that South County gets more oomph. And so this is the reason why we're all upset about this stuff. We don't want outside people. When I say outside people, I mean Sacramento people coming down and telling us how to run our organizations. That'd be like somebody coming down here, like Marie Waldron coming here and saying, well, Escondido, you should be changing your governance structure. No, just stay out of our business. You got your own things to worry about. Let's see. Okay. And I said this at the Sandag retreat. San Diego Union does this every Sunday. They pose a question to different economists. Okay, a different question every week. There's 8 people. There's they have a pool of probably Jay Harvey left already. Probably it looks like about 8 or 12 economists and 8 or 12 business leaders. Okay. Now every week there's 4 and 4 economists and 4. When they ask a question on economics, it never fails. I've watched it for months after month after month. Of the 4 economists, 2 will say yes to the question and 2 will say no. Of the business leaders, 2 will say yes to the question and 2 will say no to the question. So now we have the economist at Sandag, who's no longer there, by the way, coincidentally, who came up with this methodology of calculating how much money we're going to be able to raise. Now, let's say the projections don't come true. Let's say Measure A pass, and we're going in with all these big projects, and was it 18 billion or whatever else it's supposed to be? Anyway, and you're not going to raise that much money. So what do? Well, okay, we can't do this project, and we can't do this project. You cut your spending. Unlike Sacramento, who doesn't know how to cut spending, we do. Okay? And so you pare down your wish list and you do what you can afford to do. The other option would be, like Sacramento's trying to do now with SB1, is we'll just raise more taxes. But anyway, that's another issue I'll cover later.
Thank you. Councilmember Morasco. 1 second. Now you're.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank everyone for your comments. Transnet 1 and 2 were mentioned. A perfect example of how Escondido was underserved and placed in an underserved position through Transnet 1 and 2. This particular proposal makes Escondido in an even more vulnerable, puts Escondido in an even more vulnerable situation. It limits our voice and our control. It would be worse for Escondido, regardless of what Assemblywoman Gonzalez's thoughts are or concerns were and ideals were in regards to that. It is worse for the city of Escondido, and it is better for the district that she represents. It's biased and self-serving. And no offense in regards to what Ms. Diaz was saying, but in the semantics of, well, this really isn't coming down from Sacramento. Yes, of course it is. Everything that is proposed in Sacramento is done by a local representative. It's proposed by a local representative. And then Sacramento makes the decision as to what we will be doing down here. So it is state controlled. Otherwise, it would be taken care of here locally through local representatives who would be making those choices and decisions to alter and modify. The audit committee portion of it makes total sense, and that should come back as a separate bill or a separate proposal in regards to the audit committee. But everything else is just a bunch of malarkey. It is a power grab. It's a way for someone to take something that doesn't benefit them as much as they would like to have it benefit them, and creates an unlevel playing field. In my opinion, it's already unlevel, and not level, excuse me, and makes it worse for our city. So, and for that reason, I am completely in support of our sending this letter in opposition to this particular assembly bill.
Well said, Councilmember Morasco.
I would like.
Yeah, just a couple more points. I do believe that the board also implemented and staff an independent review of all future estimates from an independent economist. So that extra look is already getting built in at the local level. We don't need Lorena to tell us to do it. Secondly, if it turns out that there was deception, heads are rolling.
Exactly. That's what the investigation.
The leadership of Sandag staff will be looking for a job. I guarantee you that. There will be accountability.
So, Councilmember, you have a motion? Yeah, okay, go ahead, Councilmember Diaz.
So the inception of Sandag actually initiated with a state legislative action. So this is a correction or a modification to a state action already, right? So it's not something new or different. There would be no Sandag without a state legislative action. So there's that. So it is kind of within the purview of what they have authority to do, and usually with local representation. Well, the Sandag was established by the state, so that's why it is appropriate for a local assembly person to propose a modification to it. So the other thing, too, is this bill, the silver lining of it, if there's going to be one, and if this bill fails, it may, is that it is pushing for accountability for the audit committee, for the independent investigation. If there wasn't this bill, there might not be the same reaction to the pressure. So this pressure is good. It's always good to have pressure.
One good thing doesn't offset the 9 bad things.
We started the investigation in the direction before the bill came out.
And the last thing I would like to say is that Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher has a name change, and that it's respectful to use her correct legal name. So I would appreciate it if we refer to her that way in the future.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Masson to oppose AB 8805 and send our official position to the state legislators. I need a second by Councilmember Morasco. Please vote.
My button didn't work.
Keep trying.
4 yes votes, Diaz voting no.
Okay, move on to item 12. Another controversial issue is City Council response to SB 54, which is called the Sanctuary State. Actually, it's called the California Value Act. Nothing but BS name for this, because it has nothing of value to the people of Escondido. We put these two items on the agenda because it directly affect our city. Many cities, again, in San Diego are putting this item on their agenda. If you remember, Escondido in 2006, I think it's resolution 2006-17, I believe, that officially made Escondido as not a sanctuary city. So we're going to take position on that. It has been voted by the Senate along party line. They did pull out the urgency clause, so they need 21 votes on that, so it will not take effect until January 1st. This is basically a very unprecedented overreach by the state to the power of local government that is called local policing power. SB 54 does not provide protection for local communities because it expressly prohibits local law enforcement who has information on violent offenders to communicate those information effectively to the federal authorities, who are the only agency who have the authority to remove these individuals from the country. Without cooperation from local law enforcement agencies, SB 54 could force federal immigration officers into non-traditional locations for immigrations. Let me explain. Right now, since 2000, I think the last 10 plus years, Escondido has worked closely with ICE and the federal government. We have deported, I believe, over 2,000 illegal criminals from our city. Not one based on immigration status. We don't deal this anymore. It's not about immigration, it's about public safety. We continue to deport about 100 to 150 a year right now. That number has slowed down. That's why Escondido residents, including our immigrant and neighborhood groups in our city, enjoy 22% reduction in crime. That is the lowest crime rate we had since 1988. So our successful program has been copied now by other cities, including Chula Vista, and because we were very effective in getting the gangs, illegal criminals from our city and deport them and give them to the federal authority. Now, if SB 54 passes, instead of working with ICE and going and targeting gangs and criminals, then ICE will come to our neighborhoods and do sweeps. The danger of SB 54 is sweeps will take innocent people from our community, will take the dreamers out of our community, will take the people who did not commit crime, because that's how ICE operates. They go from door to door, from the brothers, the sisters, the mom and dad, and they sweep everybody. Our targeted approach is basically geared towards criminal records. Now, even with they have amended that SB 54, but still we are risking millions of dollars in the state funding. Escondido Police will lose about $1.5 million if SB 54 passes. The state loses $4.1 billion from the federal government, and I think that's what that this bill will not make our neighborhood safer. The passage of SB 54 poses an immediate threat to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of the city. The oppose of the passage and implementation of SB 54, as it takes away from local law enforcement agencies in the city they serve the ability to work and communicate with the federal government to take violent criminals out of our city. Even with the amendment right now, the SB 54 still jeopardizes crucial federal funding for public, and also it will allow child abusers, human traffickers, elder abusers from deportation. Those are serious criminal folks, and we need to get them out of our community. The California State Sheriff's Association is opposed to it. California Peace Officers Associations is opposed to it, and the California Police Chiefs Associations have expressed a serious concern and testified opposing the bill at the committee hearing. They said, we don't want to be put in a position where ICE agents come and tear down families. That's what will happen if SB 54 passes. Now, as I said, our successful model have really addressed the crime and made our neighborhood safer. We will coordinate with the other city. If SB 54 passes, we will coordinate with the other 18 cities, with our elected officials, to stop this nonsense bill. Public safety is the #1 priority for us as a city. That is called the local policing power. We are in charge of the safety of our citizens, period. The one-party states not only abusing their power, but violating the oath they took to uphold the Constitution of the state and the United States of America. Sadly, it's nothing but political gain. The state emotional reaction to the last election is clearly not in the best interest of California residents. State legislator who has been overreaching on local government for years now, for them I say, why don't you take care of your $500 billion of debt? Their debt now is accumulated to be over $500 billion. What did they do with the billions of dollars they take from our redevelopment funding that we used to build affordable housing in our communities? Why don't you address your state issues of being the most taxed, most overregulated state in the nation? Why don't you help us with the mental health funding as you promised under AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57, bankrolled by George Soros? Why don't you pass immediate reform to the unsustainable pension crisis? Pension obligation as a city will double our yearly obligation to nearly $40 million. Our budget, general fund budget, is $95 million today. So if you do the math, 5 years from now, we will have enough money, $60 million. $65 million is needed for our police and fire. If we continue with this state insanity, in 4 or 5 years, Escondido, not only Escondido, we're doing better than other cities. We are financially viable. We balance our budget. We have enough reserves. We are doing fine. Every city will be filing bankruptcy. 2 months ago, a city in Los Angeles, they defaulted on their PERS yearly obligation. So they need to do pension reform. Pension obligations will double, as I said, and in few short years, local cities can barely afford police and fire. Why is California 12% of the US population and 30% of the welfare in America? If you don't have answers to your questions on inaction, Sacramento, you are either ignorant or incompetent. You are putting your far-left ideology before the interests of the public. California is going over the cliff, and they are determined to bring local government down with them. State senators who voted on this bill, shame on you. And the assembly member who will vote on SB 54, shame on you as well. This is insanity. This is cowardness. This is political grandstanding. This is a violation of your oath. If you are willing to violate your oath, we will not. If SB 54 passes and governor signs it, as your mayor, I pledge to you that I will do what I can to protect our sovereignty and take full responsibility to fight crime and keep our 150,000 residents safe. Governor Brown, if you sign SB 54 into law, we will not comply with your law. If you allow the state to defy the federal law, then we should have the same rights to defy the state laws. Governor Brown, we will not release illegal criminals into our communities to terrorize our neighborhoods. Governor, we will not comply with SB 54 and will turn illegal criminals to the federal government. You have one option, Governor Brown, to deport me. And that will not be a bad thing, because I come back as an illegal mayor and I will have the full protection from the states. That's probably what's going to take. I feel passionately about this. we have been working as a council, all of us, 5 of us, for years to bring safety to our community, to protect our citizens, to protect the illegal immigrants who did not commit crime. And now, for their emotional reaction to the federal election, they are going to bring California down. Mark my words, the rest of the country is going to prosper. California is going to go down on a death spiral to bankruptcy. It is an emotional thing for me, but I feel passionate about my city. I feel passionate about the hard work we have done together to keep Escondido safe. This will not do us any good. This bill will hurt the same people they intend and they say they want to protect. That's why talk to Chief Carter, talk to the law enforcement. The California Police Chiefs Association and the sheriffs and the peace officers, everybody is against it. Let us do the work ourselves and let's protect our citizens, and that's what I intend to do. Councilmember Masson, you are the co-sponsor of this. Sorry, Councilmember Morasco, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. To put it mildly, this bill, SB 54, is completely overreaching. The name that it has, California Value Act, is please excuse the language, but it's really asinine because it has no value to the citizens of California. It has no value to the citizens of Escondido. I'm not a big fan of federal dollars because they always come with strings attached. It's bothersome to me. But I'm also not a fan of cutting off my nose to spite my face and eliminating our ability to have access to those federal dollars, whether it be for roads or for dams or for major projects or for safety, whatever it may be for. Public projects, funds could potentially be eliminated from our opportunity to petition for and receive those funds based upon how the federal government will respond to a defiant act by the state of California. I believe that it's not just overreaching. I think it's an overreaction, as was stated by the mayor. I do not wish to see that opportunity for federal funding eliminated, which I think this would in essence do. But more importantly, what concerns me is it does not make us safer. It makes our city less safe. And as is stated here, it wrongly provides safe harbor from federal immigration authorities fulfilling federal law by obstructing their ability to remove individuals who are unlawfully in the state and are a danger to the community. I mean, who in this community wants that? Who in this community wants to have our police officers completely hamstrung and limited in what can be done here, or our federal officers in what can be done here to protect us as citizens of the city of Escondido? SB 54 does not provide protection for local communities because it expressly prohibits local law enforcement, who are most likely to come into contact with violent offenders unlawfully in the United States, from communicating effectively with federal authorities, who are the only agencies who have the authority to remove these individuals from the country. Again, this is something that we all feel passionate about, the safety of us, of all of us, the safety of our citizens here in Escondido, and I'm completely opposed to something that could potentially create a less safe environment for our cities. And again, lastly, SB 54 has the potential for adversely affecting opportunities for grants and other funding from federal government, which the city needs to fulfill its mission to provide safe neighborhoods to its constituents. I started off by stating that this puts it in a little, it's much better stated than what I did. But again, for this reason, and for these reasons, I'm opposed to this Senate bill. Again, overreaching, overreaction, and it does nothing for us but cause us problems. And that's why I co-sponsored this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. I'm curious if either of you actually read the bill. Okay, that's a good answer. I could see you put some thought into it. Some of the stuff about the governor was a little but here we are with this bill. So I have a question for the city manager. The mayor mentioned a $1.5 million loss to Escondido, and I don't think I'm familiar with how much money we would be jeopardizing or how much money we've received. This $1.5 million is a new number to me. So can you help me understand what the mayor said?
I believe that's an estimate that the chief gave the mayor. We haven't conducted a thorough analysis.
Okay, and normally when that kind of information is provided, it should be shared to the whole council, just because I'm left with this number that I've never heard before, trying to figure out how to piece that into our discussion.
We approve them.
So, I can't go back to you right now. So you also mentioned a few things. What happened to our redevelopment money? Actually, we buttressed our education system. We have the 8th strongest economy in the world as a single state, regardless of the rest of the country. California's economy is among the best in the nation as a singular state. We are also a net tax contributor to the federal government. We give more than we get back from the federal government as a state. So there are a couple of things that are concerning, but those are besides the point. What the bill actually says, and I wanted to go see it because I want everybody to be safe. My husband had a career in law enforcement. I live here. My parents were immigrants. I mean, all of these things matter to me. And how these different populations collide and how they work together peacefully is important to me. But I wanted to point out that right here in the bill, it says that law enforcement may continue to work with immigration authorities. We merely have to put together a model policy, which means we have to put in writing how we work with immigration agencies, what we do, what we don't do, explicitly write it down, which to date we do not have. So we have ICE and we do not. I asked repeatedly, what is our agreement with ICE in our police department? I just want to know, what happens as a liability to the city if ICE is covering EPD on a call and somebody gets hurt? Is that our liability? Is it the federal government's liability? If somebody from that agency trips and falls in our department because they have office space there, what happens? I've never been able to get answers to those questions. So I have never seen in writing what our agreement is and what ICE, what the parameters are, what they do and don't do, and what our agency, our city that we're responsible for, EPD, how we interact with them. I think it's all on a handshake and an agreement. I know there's concepts like having what they call that shared governance, not shared governance, but a mutual aid is what they call it in law enforcement. So I think it's under that parameter that we have some kind of working relationship, but I've never seen it in writing. If we want to continue to work with them, we'd have to put it in writing, and we'd merely have to report to the Department of Justice periodically, every 6 months specifically, what we're doing and how we've done it. It also says that if you're if you are convicted and serving time in prison, and you are an undocumented person, you're now a criminal alien based on crime that you've committed in our state, the Board of Parole Hearings or the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation must notify the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency 60 days prior to release, which means we have to, as a state, we will notify immigration, here's a dangerous criminal alien. They'll be done with serving their sentence for a crime that they've committed and were convicted for in our state. Here you go. That, to me, addresses the issue of the dangerous criminal aliens. With this,
those who have already been convicted.
So what happens now is that merely making contact with somebody, specifically addressing their immigration status, comes to profiling. It makes it unlawful for us to arrest people merely on civil immigration warrants, which means maybe re-entry or failure to appear in court over immigration matters, not stealing a car, not hurting anybody, not committing a criminal crime, right? This is Duncan Hunter, he didn't commit a criminal crime. Not committing a criminal crime, this is a civil crime. And right now, there is the authority to remove people for criminal crimes. I saw this once. I saw it with my own eyes, we did it. We separated a 3-year-old little girl from her mother at a checkpoint. I didn't want to believe that happened. I got invited to go see what a checkpoint looks like. I went, and this is what I saw with my own eyes. So yes, we have done it. Doesn't mean we do it consistently, but we have done it. And if I hadn't have seen it, I wouldn't be so adamant about saying, yes, we do it. So
When was that?
This was in 2010. So I was on the council, and we were doing a lot of checkpoints, and I saw this happen. Since then, Come on, it happens. We don't have an agreement. Nothing has changed between then and now. Nothing is in writing. We don't have different practices. So yes, it happens. So this law specifically prohibits that kind of thing from happening. It also it continues to allow peace officers to work with federal agencies with a written agreement. So we have special task forces. That can continue to happen. So it says nothing in this section shall prevent us from doing the following things. Sharing information.
How does it benefit us?
What it does is it prevents an individual contact. Say Ed gets pulled over for a broken tail light. It prevents a public, local police officer from calling immigration because, this guy looks kind of
don't do it, Olga. You're giving them misinformation to the public.
That's what this law does.
We don't
for the
do
whole
it.
State, not
Ask the
for
chief.
Escondido.
We don't deport anybody based on minor infraction.
But this law is not just about Escondido. This is about local law enforcement throughout the state and what other agencies do. Now, our agency, I think, operates pretty well. I think Chief Carter does a really good...
Then we don't need this.
No, but this is standardization of law enforcement. It's the same reasoning we used for standardizing something as simple as curfew. Every city had a different rule. Every city approached it differently. We have now standardized that. With this particular law, every city does different things, and so that's what standardization across the state would be achieved. So it makes it clear what we can and can't do, and it sets boundaries and expectations between local agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies. It's a contract, essentially, is what it is. So the California Values Act, it makes it very clear that immigrants are valuable and essential members of the California community.
We agree.
That's what this espouses.
No, this
and
is
it
not
also
about this.
protects them from some forms of law enforcement that are not related to actual crimes, but rather, the kinds of injustices that I think we could agree we don't ever intend to happen in our city through our law enforcement, but occasionally they do. So it doesn't do a lot of the things that you said it does. And again, I wanted to read it so I could argue for myself. I mean, it's right here, and this is the edited version. It's been modified 4 times. This is the newest version. And
Because it's problematic.
well, no, there were things about date, like implementation, right? So it goes from urgency to having it January 1st, because every law requires some time to implement.
Olga,
It also changes the voting.
Councilmember Diaz, as amended,
Yeah, up in Sacramento, by changing whether it's urgent or not, it doesn't have to have the same
Threshold.
right.
I understand what you were saying now.
As passed, SB 54 will still shield child abusers, human trafficking.
You're not reading the law. You're reading a political statement.
No,
from fucking Hunter.
Olga, no. This is from Senator Anderson, who sent an email to us telling us how did this pass. You can verify that.
But it has a political slant. I'm looking at the actual text of the bill, is what I'm saying. So
It will shield.
appreciate or
Right.
agree with me. I'm just saying I'm factually correct in reading the law. You're reading talking points.
You are wrong because it shields the illegal criminals. Okay. This is the bill. Go and read it. It's available. So anyway, so if it's that good, I think one police chief will in the state of California will support it. Okay, Council Member Masson.
Yeah, thank you. I don't like this just because it's a political snub. It's clearly in retribution to our president and him wanting to get a handle on our immigration policies and procedures. I don't like the fact that we lose control over our policing powers and lose control over, even though it's been amended. I still feel like it's something's trying to tie our hands for our police officers to keep our communities safe. And I also don't like the fact of the loss of funding. And just tonight, I think we approved it was $100 and something thousand, $150,000 of federal money. So we do that. I think we've done it for the last 3 or 4 council meetings. That's concerning to me. Not to mention the federal funding to the state and everything else that we try to get our fingers on. So I'm very concerned. This is more of a political gesture coming out of Sacramento to snub our president, who is, I think, trying to just get our country back on track. So I will be supporting
the resolution.
The resolution to not support SB 54.
Councilmember Gallo.
Just so much has been covered, and everybody's right. I just have an issue or a problem going against what law enforcement, with sheriffs, police, whatever, say they don't agree with this because it ties their hands. And in order for us to have a safe community, law enforcement has to have, not free rein, they still have to have controls. They have to be able to do their job, for crying out loud. That's what they get paid to do. That's what they're trained to do. That's why they're called peace officers, to keep the peace. Okay? So I'm opposed to it. And I agree with Mr. Masson, what he said. This clearly is just retribution to the last election. The other side just can't get over it that they lost, and that's unfortunate, but you have to stop crying and start moving forward.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Morasco. I have a second by Deputy Mayor Masson. Please vote. Mr. Gallo.
4 yes votes. Diaz voting no.
Thank you. We move on to item 13, 2017-18 Draft City Council Action Plan Update. Mr. Patrick, congratulations on the outstanding Dancing with the Star performance. I understand that you have raised with your colleagues about $100,000 that goes to charity. Can you just briefly say where does this money go?
Yes, so for the public's benefit, the Center for the Arts held a fundraiser where 10 community members were paired with 10 professional dance instructors, and in a Dancing with the Stars format, we performed 2 numbers, a ballroom and a freestyle dance on the grand stage at the Center for the Arts, and it was a great experience. I had a great dancer instructor, in fact, Michael Morasco, Councilman Morasco, who was...
Did it last year.
Last year, I had the same partner that he did, and it was a great experience. Had a lot of fun, a lot of support backstage. It was a very great experience. I'm hoping that more council members participate in this next year. So,
where does the money go?
The money goes to programs that the Center for the Arts operates for disadvantaged youth, for cultural and art programs that are held there on campus.
Fantastic. Okay, back to the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jay Petrick. I'm the Assistant City Manager here with Escondido. And for the public's benefit, tonight we will be discussing the City Council Action Plan. This is a 2-year program that informs the community and provides direction to staff for implementing key priorities that have been identified by the City Council. The action plan was first established this program for establishing an action plan.
Can you pull the microphone closer? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. The program for establishing council action plans was commenced in 2013, so this is the 3rd action plan that the council will be considering. And council will recall the workshop that you had back in February, where you had in the council, or in the Mitchell room, some robust discussion regarding visioning for Escondido, challenges and opportunities for carrying out that vision in the next couple of years. Staff summarized those details that were discussed at the workshop, and we included them in your March City Council minutes, and they basically are consistent with the prior council action plans with the 4 key topics that we'll be talking about as part of the discussion. Once staff had direction from council and we had confirmation that those items that were discussed from the minutes were approved, we went diligently to work and prepared this draft action plan. Council may recall prior action plans weren't delivered to them until August or so after the February workshop. So we stepped up our game this time, and I want to thank staff publicly for the whirlwind of meetings that we had to quickly put together this action plan and get it to you for your first review. So in preparing this action plan that you received in your staff report, we took an eye towards simplifying the document and streamlining some of the ways that it's presented. We've established a single goal for each of the 4 topic areas, and we also have put the current realities and strategies in a more efficient way for both the public and the decision makers to read. And staff is also here on hand, sitting behind me in the audience, to answer any questions or further discuss any strategies that might come up during the meeting. So I'm going to quickly go through the 4 key topics: economic development, fiscal management, community improvement, public safety. This was also provided online. It's the draft council action plan, identifies a current reality and then strategies to address those current realities. For economic development, we have a single goal of ensuring the long-term vitality of Escondido's local economy, and we have the strategies focused on the points that you see identified here on the screen, from proactive economic development, Citricado Parkway extension, enhanced communications, and smart city strategies, and so forth. For fiscal management, the goal is to approve a balanced budget each year as required by the state law, and one that ensures the city's financial stability, with strategies that are focused on balancing the budget as well as meeting our PERS obligation. Regarding community improvement, the goal is to improve aesthetics, design, land uses, and accessibility to support community needs. And there the strategies are focusing on proactive code enforcement, continued neighborhood transformation program efforts, graffiti eradication, Escondido Creek improvements, etc. And for public safety, the goal there is to maintain a safe environment for Escondido with high-quality emergency services. The strategies there focus on homelessness, providing that enhanced officer presence in the community, gang issues. Would also want to call your attention to an additional strategy that was added to this draft after you received it last week. That's strategy number 5 in the document under public safety. What I hope to hear tonight from you are your confirmation as well as any refinements to the strategies that staff has developed. And we would be intending to work on these simultaneously. This will be strategies that are working or that are in effect and would be conducted across department lines. And so it'll be a simultaneous effort across all departments. But if there's an area that you want us to recommend prioritized activities, we would definitely want to know that. And that will come into play when we come back to you with an update within 3 months that will assign staff and deadlines to these particular strategies so that you can understand where we're going next and the efforts that we'll be focusing on in the immediate future. So that concludes what I have to say here tonight. Be happy to answer any questions, and again, as staff is behind me to answer any further questions that I won't.
Question at this time. This is a public hearing. We have requests to speak. Okay, let me open the. Okay, go ahead.
Were there actual changes between what we had prior and this? Because I couldn't see where the changes were.
Added. You just added
Wait.
item 5, you said? Is that what it heard you just
Yeah, the only change was on the very last page of.
So there's nothing else other than that?
Correct, yeah, nothing else, yeah.
Okay. I will open the public hearing. I would like to ask Carol Ray to speak.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm Carol Ray, President of the Old Escondido Historic District, and I'm here to respectfully request that per item number 17, under community improvement, that we be considered for sidewalks and lighting in Old Escondido. As you know, Old Escondido is the city's most senior neighborhood, where we've been without proper lighting for well over a century. While I understand that CDBG funds may or may not be available, perhaps other funding can be sought, but we'd sure like to be considered first, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a good recommendation. We'll see. Councilmember Gallo. Okay, with that, I close the public hearing, bring it back to council discussion and action. Councilmember Gallo.
I saw Karen's eyes light up when she heard CDBG funds. Karen, not you, Carol. Karen. So there's a possibility. It's a stretch, but who knows. My only thing is I like this. I like the fact that this council, for I guess decades, does a plan of action, a 2-year plan of action, because that's the only way you can get things done. You set a goal, you strive for it. Sometimes you reach it, sometimes you don't. But more often than not, I think we make the goal. I would like to see a more aggressive marketing, public relations campaign on behalf of the city to promote the city. See, the media dwells on the negative stuff, even the social media. You know, every once in a while, I look at Facebook, once, twice a week maybe, and there's a couple other sites I won't mention that get a lot of public comments, and almost all of them are negative. And that's what the people read. We haven't been able to counteract that somehow. And I'll bring up an analogy I thought of. I thought about it today. There was a comment from some guy about Cruising Grand. He said, this was in Facebook or someplace, that Cruising Grand stinks now since the city took it over.
It's not true.
Well, I was going to respond, but I thought, nah, screw it. You know, the guy's nuts or something. The city has never run Cruising Grand. But this is what the public sees. Oh, the city's running this thing now? Okay? And we can't stop somebody from, you know, I still believe in the Constitution, even though some people might not, you know. But for crying out loud, we have to have something to counter. We have to play up the good stuff. And the analogy I brought today when we met with the YMCA people was about a school. You have a school that has, my kids went to Orange Glen, so I talked mostly about Orange Glen. When they had the #1 marching band in California, all the kids in school felt proud. They felt good. They did well in school. Why? They have a good band. They weren't in the band, but the school had one, so they felt good. You have a good football team in school. The whole school feels good because you have a good football team. Okay? So it lifts everybody's mind up. Okay? It gets them elevated instead of down, you know? And this is where, talking about schools, I don't play an instrument or any of that stuff, but I think one of the cruelest things that the Board of Education did when money got tight, instead of cutting other expenses, they cut out music. Personally, I think that sucks. Okay? I think music is a critical part of any high school.
Off the record.
And I have never played an instrument in my life. I play the radio. Okay? But anyway, code enforcement. I see, that's one of our goals is to be more aggressive in code enforcement. And I wish we had the money to hire a bunch of people. I was telling one of the code enforcement guys the other day, 20 years ago, our code enforcement department had 2 people. The department head, or whatever the title was, and 1 employee. That was it, 2 people. Now we have, I don't know how many, 12, 14, whatever it is.
We have about few, 2 or 3.
Are you kidding me?
I think so.
We got about a dozen.
How many code enforcement do we have?
And
we have about 6 full-time, including supervisors, and I believe 7 part-time.
Okay.
So that's 13. My math is pretty good. 6 and 7 is 13.
That's good.
Okay?
Give it that.
And it's not enough. If you can believe it, that's not enough. And you have to keep, graffiti. People complain, that's another thing on social media. The graffiti's getting terrible. Well, yeah, maybe they saw it today, but when they go back to the same spot tomorrow, it's gone. All right? So everybody, reports the negative stuff instead of the good things. Like when the homeless camp was cleaned up. It was cleaned up the next day. Did anybody put a comment on social media that thank you for the city of Escondido for doing such a great job cleaning up that trashy homeless camp? No. That wasn't put out there. Nobody wants to read good news. Everybody wants to read the negative crap. And we're a lot better than that. So that's one of the other things. I know we have to look for the money, and that's our city manager's job. So anyway, those are my general comments.
Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you. We need a really good pickleball team to raise everybody's spirit.
There you go.
That's what we need.
About time we agreed on something.
No, I was just teasing you. Okay, so with economic development, I'll start with that. Item 6, we have apparently contracted with a consultant to explore the feasibility of establishing an EIFD in the urban core. So tell me what an EIFD is, and who did we contract with, and when are we going to know what their results are?
So an EIFD is an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. It's similar to redevelopment, where you would establish defined improvements for a targeted area, and we're looking specifically at an area around the downtown and maybe a little bit beyond. And through tax revenue collections and the increased values that are established, the funds raised could be used to put toward those improvements that would benefit future development. So a thought is that a lot of the sewer and water lines in downtown are aging or they're undersized, and by installing those and upgrading those, it would facilitate new development to occur and not have to do extensive off-site improvements that are kind of stymieing development at this point. We've reached out to Cosmont, who is the consultant who is evaluating it. Part of their effort would involve a full presentation to City Council on what it is, how it operates, the feasibility of it, the appropriateness of it, and so we wouldn't venture any further until we had Council informed of our research.
So in general, it would be like establishing a perimeter around the area that we want to focus on, and then setting up some kind of tax increment capture?
Correct, and identifying specific improvements that will be conducted within that area.
Okay, but there wouldn't be a direct fee to property owner or business owner in that area?
Correct.
Okay, so that is, and when are we going to hear this information?
We'll work with them on getting a
this
presentation
year?
established. Oh yeah, it'd be this year sometime. So they're in the process of collecting information and meeting with us about what type of improvements that would be appropriate.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize, though, probably won't be bothering council with it unless it's productive. Right now, I think we're still evaluating as whether or not it's really a productive endeavor or not. So certainly some analysis, and Jay's team is, I think you had a lengthy call with them the other day to just get a feel for whether or not this is worth our time or not.
Okay, but if it's in our action plan, I assume at some point you report back to us something.
The idea is to run it to ground and get back to you. Either if it's productive, we'll move forward. If it's not, we'll tell you it didn't pan out.
Okay. And then I have a little concern over our ECAP item. Our climate action plan is outdated, and legal challenges to its methodologies could hinder opportunities for future development. The ECAP anticipated a 2017 update, which is this year, to address post-2020 targets. I don't remember reading this before. So can you tell me why it's on here? And we didn't talk about the climate, no, we didn't talk about it at our action plan, so it's in our plan. I want to know why and what we're going to do about it.
So it's under economic development because it is something that's stymieing or could potentially stymie economic opportunities with development that might come to the city. There's been some legislation, or not legislation, but court cases in other areas of the state regarding jurisdictions with insufficient climate action plans, and that has stopped development in those cities. And so one effort would be to amend the action plan, to update it, to make sure it's consistent with the newer methodologies that are in the more updated climate action plans. If you recall, when we did our general plan, we were one of the first jurisdictions to prepare a climate action plan. It was required by the state. They basically said they would not certify our general plan unless we had a climate action plan. The benefit of being first out of the gate a lot of times is the full details and the robust requirements that later actions of planning efforts that follow aren't in place yet. And so our plan was something that was now looked at as rather primitive. There's other ones that are on cities' books that are basically much more.
Well, it's also by design, because you've always been told to do the bare minimum when it comes to climate action, anything, right? So what I'm hearing is our minimalist approach is that document is no longer satisfactory. It's insufficient.
Correct. And Bill, you might want to.
Yeah, actually, there's been some legislation since we've adopted our climate action plan that obviously our climate action plan does not address. And so we need to kind of bring it back up to speed. And this item was actually generated from some conversations we've had with local developers who are concerned that their project approvals, may have some sensitivity or some. They have concerns that they may have exposure or some weakness based on the status of our climate action plan. So
This sounds like a high priority.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why we've put it on the action plan.
Okay, but it can't just be on there, like, these are not all equals on this plan, right? They're all important, but, I would like to see something like this filter its way to the top, regardless of how individually we feel about climate action. It sounds like we can't move forward with development unless we address this. So.
That's the concern that we're hearing.
And we will address this, like, next month?
No.
Not next month, but probably within just a couple of months.
Okay, because 2017, it expires. Okay.
Actually, the action plan is good through 2020, and there's verbiage in the action plan that by 2017 we would start an update process.
Okay, we need to. No, we need to set aside funding to purchase Valiums for Councilman Masson so he can handle these discussions.
So the plan is to review the climate action plan in the general plan. That's the plan.
We have to update it to meet standards. So, okay, I get that now. It just concerned me because I know we had one. I didn't realize that it required this kind of update. And then temporary sign regulations for businesses. We've had some negative feedback, and
I'm sorry.
Same page, number 14, page 2 of economic development. I know feather flags. I know they really irk the mayor. I see them all over the place. They don't personally bother me, especially when they're nice and new and pretty colors or whatever. So temporary sign regulations, meaning says banners and flags are.
Like, remember you brought it up regarding discount tire?
Yeah, that was a nice banner. So we're going to leave. Okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to?
We have a sign ordinance that we in place.
Modify? Okay. And then self-storage, page 3, items 15 and 16. Sorry. It says we have a glut of self-storage facilities, and this is a really nice thing to see. I think maybe it's the first time I've noticed this, maybe I've read it somewhere, but that we have more than any other city in North County.
Yes.
Okay, so people are storing their junk in our city, and we probably need to stop approving them or encouraging them. So we've approved some nice ones in the last couple of years, but if you look at the old ones that are kind of scattered around town, they're just unproductive, unappealing old buildings that who knows what's in there.
It's a garage. What do you want?
So anyway, I'm glad to see that we are at least aware, and hopefully this will remind us next time somebody proposes one that we probably really don't need any more of those. Moving on to fiscal management, the item 9, page 5, bringing John Bartel, I think, is a high priority to me, the actuary that tells us about our pension obligations and things that we need to address. So,
Sam's got the charts.
but it also, I was surprised because I thought it was worse. In the current reality, it says that miscellaneous plan is funded at a ratio of 70% and the safety employee is funded at 73%. I'm pretty sure the last time I went and looking for those numbers, it was like, it was worse than this. It was, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe that's just my perception. I mean, it's bad, right? We owe money, but I don't know. It seems scarier. So then moving on to community.
Actually, if I could just jump in on that one. So you're going to hear this whole PERS unfunded liability in much greater detail. First, more on an introductory level when you consider your budget, both preliminarily and in June, because we've started to focus on that. And then this summer is actually when we plan to bring in the actuary and talk about longer-term solutions. So the first step has been to earmark, identify, and start dialogue about the process. And then the second part of that is to identify the strategy to deal with it on a long-term basis. I think a couple of weeks ago I sent the council around an email with some graphs on other cities and unfunded liability, and we're certainly not at the bad end of the pack. We're not better off than everyone, probably right in the middle of the pack. But staff is clearly aware of this issue, and you'll see a lot more of it develop in the next 2 to 3 months. It's definitely a high priority.
Thank you. I always like it when we have Mr. Bartell here because he's very, very knowledgeable about his field, and I feel like I always learn something from him. I save my notes, so every time he comes, I just pull out my old notes and keep adding to them. I noticed we have our alternative compliance prominently listed as something that we're going to keep working on. Community improvement, I agree that Old Escondido needs lights and sidewalks. Even where it does have sidewalks, sometimes they are 100 years old and in disrepair. And I know we try, but there's always more to do. I'm not seeing, I had heard about, somebody from the community told me that there was some mention of a bid in here, but I'm not seeing the bid. I wonder if that was the EIFD. Are we considering doing another business improvement district? And I'm just not finding it.
I can see what that was.
So there's some item number 8 in economic development. Fiscal management.
Yeah, that could be what
Chamber of Commerce, there it is. So it's not really a bid, but involve the Chamber of Commerce in establishing business districts or groups to address unique needs of business clusters. We had a history with a bid in downtown Escondido specifically, and when that bid was established, the law at that time allowed a bid to be perpetually established. The law has since changed, so now there are forced sunset clauses. It's 5 years with a possible 2 5-year extension, so they can't go on forever the way ours was. And we have bids and we have P-bids, which are property-based instead of sales tax revenue generated bids on businesses. So I don't know where we intend to have these or explore these, but I would imagine.
Well, the intent wasn't to establish a bid or a formal boundary of such or of sorts. It was basically to identify, for instance, we've got clusters of different types of businesses. They all have similar needs. They might be dispersed around the community. They might be located in certain sectors of the community, like the auto park. We have craft breweries that are kind of spread out amongst Escondido, but they all have unique needs amongst themselves. And they might have issues related to signage, to sewage disposal, to traffic, and working with them to address signage, working with them to address those specific needs would be a way to help them further enhance their operations and be more productive and more profitable in the community. So
and we can probably modify the wording of this one if you'd like to just make that a little more clear.
Well, business district, I mean, we have a history. That's what it sounds like it looks like. But also, if we're going to do anything in downtown Escondido, I know the Chamber has a larger reach in a lot of areas, but if we're focused on downtown Escondido anything, we should probably reach out to the Downtown Business Association in its current form. And then that also brings me to maybe an item that's not on here, but I think we would all agree that things and activities and investments that we make in downtown Escondido, that is our brand of the city, and like cool stuff has to happen downtown. So I know I want to work on murals and art downtown just to have that be, part of the flavor. And obviously there's a history of arts in the downtown. But sometimes it looks like we just kind of overlook it. And when we had the bid, theoretically, we could have used some of that money on refreshing the landscape in the parking lots and the big pots and planters downtown. When I travel to other places, I look at all the cute stuff they have, and somehow it gets paid for. I don't know if it's the city or the businesses sponsor it, but downtown sometimes looks like an afterthought. At the holidays, it's not decorated when other downtowns are, and we have one of the most charming downtowns, like natural, real, historic downtown, and I know we appreciate it, we like it, but I don't know how directly we could support it. So I'm looking for ideas of okay, what do we do to really embrace it?
That's what I was hopeful that this would do. Help address specifically those things that you brought up.
Okay. So how does it do it though?
So staff is proposing to dialogue more with the Chamber of Commerce than we have lately, to include them in more discussions that because they've got their membership and knowledge of the business sectors in the community, to work with them to see what they want and how the city can be more helpful to help their organization, members, and even non-members to address the specific needs. So districts is probably a poor choice of words. It's really more about areas of the community where businesses are, and then business sectors that might, again, be dispersed around the community, but all have similar needs.
I get that, and I think the Chambers is a good option for a lot of these clusters in different areas of town, but when we're talking about downtown, sort of the heart and the core of the city, I think Downtown Business Association is probably who should help us directly identify
Correct,
what
and
the
that would
merchants
be
want.
that for downtown. You're right. That
Okay.
would be the entity we would want to work with.
All right.
I hear you saying that might be a good idea in strategies 8 and 9 under economic development to actually reference the downtown area. Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Masson?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman Diaz, for hitting on a lot of mine already. Couple of questions. I went back to our old work plan, and there are a few things on there that I wanted some clarification on, and I probably should have done this before, but annexation of islands, I don't know, is that a dead deal? Are we still pursuing that? Is it in our mayor's hands?
Well, as it turns out, it is a LAFCO work effort this year.
Right.
So and staff has done quite a bit of research on identifying the islands that we have in Escondido, property values, what we get from an annexation, and what would be the anticipated cost to serve that area. So that is something that we'll be working with LAFCO on this year as part of their...
Jay is doing an analysis about the benefits. Of course, there is a benefit to have those under the cities, so we can provide the services, but also we're looking at the property tax issues, so we don't expose ourselves for roads improvement. So Jay will come back to us, and then we will revisit that with LAFCO.
Yeah, I didn't really hear back. I didn't know if it fell off our list or if it's still on our list and we're working on it, and maybe all these will fall into that category. The working together to get to yes, the smart city stuff, our website update, our communication, social media outreach and all that stuff. I know some of that marketing materials falling in here. We had electronic submittals and track it. There's things like that we couldn't find the money or staffing or whatever. Are those things parked? Are we still working on them, or did they just completely fall off the plan and we're done with it?
No, they've been folded into some of the smart cities dialogue that's in under the strategies. Bill,
And we're already doing some of that with our solar permits, and we're going to be doing that with our electric vehicle charging stations as well. So we're starting to roll that out.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just think it's good stuff to pursue, and we're already kind of doing some electronic plan checking, I know, with engineering and whatnot, but
yes, we are.
I'm not sure it's formalized yet or whatever. Thank you. Yeah, one idea, I'm probably going to get lambasted for this. Under community improvement, we're working on code enforcement. I'm wondering if we can use our fire folks to help us out with code enforcement when they're not out fighting fires or saving lives. If there's a possibility, they're out in our community, they're always around, and we're paying them. And they're smart. They understand code violations and unlivable situations and things like that. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
I think
the
city manager is looking into that,
Yeah.
and to be
Okay.
more efficient. Yes.
Social media. I had a question on the traffic signalization, synchronization. No, just a question. Can we use our
Sorry, what number are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's page 9, 10, and 11. We're putting, $3 to $6 million into our road rehab. Can we use that money for traffic synchronization or not? Or is that just for pavement rehab?
We could use gas funds. Certainly could be used for traffic signal synchronization. That's something that we could.
After we get to the 70 index
Well,
on the roads.
I don't know. I was just questioning because, $30,000 per corridor seems like we can start nipping those things off if we just give it a little bit more to them. And
Yes, I think future projections for Transnet revenue will outpace the gas tax decline, and depending upon what happens with the legislation that's under consideration now, we might be in a better position where we may be able to add some funding toward synchronization as a part of the pavement project.
Thank you. That was it.
You were left one question to Councilmember Morasco. Leave it.
Right.
Leave it.
No, this I guarantee this is on his list. So it's item 14.4. We're having a challenge funding our police firing range training facility. And I just wonder if there's a way for us to maybe privatize this or open it to the public. I mean, I know there's a lot of shooters in Escondido that would love to use that range and maybe pay for that opportunity. So I just wanted to toss it out there for.
I think there's 17 law enforcement agencies that are currently working with the city to use it, and the time for one is limited for opening up to the public, and it's in a pretty primitive state. Even though it's got a lot of improvements to it, there's some liability issues with having the public access it as well. So
I tried. Right.
Do those other agencies pay to use it, or
yes, they do.
So we actually generate revenue from it already?
A little bit, yes, we do.
A little bit, like $1,000 a year or $50,000 a year? Like, what are we charging?
That I wouldn't. We'll have our police.
Because I don't feel bad for other agencies giving us money.
I don't know if you know.
Right? I mean, we should charge a fair rate.
Mike Laurie from the Police Department with Captain. We are enjoying about $50,000 a year right now. I think we could do better if we had a little more capital to get us going.
It's just short and sweet and concise. Councilmember Morasco.
Okay, I'm going to pull a Gallo here, a little story in regards to John's light synchronization. So I like to mountain bike. I have friends that live up in Riverside County. They're all in law enforcement, ironically, and they come down to ride with me at Daly Ranch. So about 3 Saturdays ago, we met early at Daly Ranch to ride, and they were complaining. We got stuck on El Norte Parkway on every single red light. We were there forever. It's ridiculous. There's no one coming the other direction, and we're waiting. We can't go anywhere. They went on and on and on. So a week later, they drive back down to ride with me again at Daly Ranch. And I said, how are the lights today on El Norte? Perfect. We had green lights the whole way. Whatever you did, it really worked. I didn't dare tell them the truth, but at any rate, no, thank you all for bringing everything up that you did. Just thank you guys for all your hard work in putting this stuff together. I really like a lot of it in regards to the strategies and the economic development, things that were already stated, which we discussed and spoke about. I like the idea of getting businessmen and women involved with perhaps some modification of our sign ordinances, as long as it does not involve feather flags, because like I said, they look good for a day, and then they look horrible thereafter. This is just a curiosity question in regards to the inventory of storage facilities. How is it that conversation came about? I'm thinking about other things that we see quite a bit of in the city of Escondido, check cashing facilities. I know it doesn't take up the same sort of footprint, but I mean, how is it that something becomes gets on your radar as being problematic, like the number of storage units that we have?
One of the goals in the general plan when it was adopted in 2012 was to promote the intensification of employment properties. Correct. So that we had employees per acre increased and raised the median income of the average employee. And when the mini storage units started coming in, and we would start asking about, well, how many people are going to be employed on this several acre proproperty with
the lowest
storage units? And invariably, it's 1 or 2 people taking up several acres of very developable employment land. And we started realizing that this is something that is not in concert with existing policies that are in the general plan that speak toward promoting that intensification of employment opportunities. And then when we looked a little bit further, San Marcos actually has some pretty strict regulations that prohibit it. And we're starting to see now that Escondido is becoming almost the receptor site for these facilities.
Because of that.
Because of that. So It is something that it's a concern of staff. We're seeing prime properties that would otherwise be great candidates for employment uses that would have a lot of employees per acre on them being eaten away, if you will, for land uses that don't generate a lot of activity.
And I'd mentioned that to Mr. Masson, that being familiar with San Marcos because of business, that they have quite a few storage units, and they obviously had to do something to to nip it in the bud.
And we may be bringing something similar to council with those same sort of requirements that really limit it.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I'll cut it short. One last question. In regards to the Palomar Hospital property, has there been any, oh, she's gone, any formal declaration as to what is happening with that property as of this time?
At this point, we've met with the approved purchasers of the property. They have met with us to talk about what our vision is, what the city's vision is for developing that site. They're taking that information back and have yet to come forward with a plan. But it would be primarily residential with some mixed use. And we see that as in concert with what the general plan and downtown specific plan call for, which is bolstering the residential population of that area and providing the expanded customer base for the surrounding commercial areas. So when that plan comes forward, we'll make sure that the council's briefed.
And so it's down to a single entity?
Yes.
And is their background in residential?
Their background is in residential, and it's in large development of these kind of sites. They have properties down in San Diego and in Orange County that they've developed. It's Zephyr Developer.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it.
Jay, thank you very much. I remember when I was elected mayor, even when I was on the city council, I believe in a structural process of the action plan. Let's have some fewer priorities and focus on achieving those. And the action plan, I think one of the very few cities that they have a very defined goals and a very specific action plan with measurable results. And I think I've heard this from other cities as well. So I think we have refined the process so much that's really goal-oriented, and we can measure it and see how we're doing. However, I do agree about the climate action plan, but my approach or my requirements will be to meet the state requirements, period. I don't want to add anything that will prevent us from creating economic opportunities. So yes, we have to comply. We were one of the first cities to do the action plan, climate action plan, because we had to go to the voters in 2012 to approve the general plan. And I think it has been approved. So we have a good framework. It's a matter of updating it now and complying with the state. The downtown, I think, is very important. I believe that Michelle told me that there will be a grant soon to study the downtown and the parking and that. And I think that goes with my council colleagues, the focus on the downtown. I agree with you, Olga, this is one of the most beautiful historic downtown in Southern California. We love it. It has a lot of potential. However, the economy has hindered the process and the progress a little bit, one. Secondly, all these buildings were built when we had horses. They are built till the property lines. Now there are a lot of seismic requirements. I know former council member DeAgosta wanted to do a nice project in there, but the cost is prohibitive when you have to meet those seismic requirements. And I'm glad the city is paying attention to the infrastructure with water and considering that kind of things. But whatever study we do, I think we need to revisit the diagonal parking, eliminating the median on all these things will be coming back to the council. We need to do something more practical and help the downtown prosper. One concern I have is the latest developments in the structural deficit in our budget, because of what we did, because of what the state has put us in terms of mostly the pension increase. As you probably know and heard at the state of the city, that we are facing $20 million to keep our service level of today. We are facing $20 million that was prepared by former city manager Graham Mitchell. So we have to come up not only $5 million a year. We have to come up with $5 million, $10 million, $15 million, $20 million. This is a huge, huge challenge for us to do. Our sales taxes are going up, and they are at record level, but they will not barely make half of the deficit we have. So my priorities will be to keep our community safe, to work on the gang injunctions. The chief of police is doing an excellent job. We have 4 gang detectives, and we have 4 gang units as well. We have doubled that a few years ago, and I think we are focusing on this issue to make our community safe and clean. Code enforcement, it is a priority. It has been in our action plan for a long time. But if we can, I probably need to focus on the clean city, the safe city, and the budget. Those are, and I think our action plan is great, because this doesn't have to be accomplished in the next 6 months or 1 year. This is work in progress. But the priorities is to continue to provide the core basic services to our residents, and then we can talk about the CDBG, we can talk about the Capital Improvement Fund, we can make those as a priority as we go. Lighting in the historic district is very important, but I want to make the historic district safe first and clean first. I've spent 8 hours going in the older neighborhood, took pictures. It's very dramatic, but we need to really clean up those neighborhoods very much, and then go to the safe neighborhood with the lighting and sidewalks. Those are capital improvement things, and we'll be revisiting those to make sure we prioritize those issues. It's an excellent document, Jay and the staff. I think everybody, the department heads have worked on that. We're going to continue to focus on basic requirements, and I think we will definitely need to meet our balanced budget, not the state required balanced budget, Jay, because the state considers a balanced budget with the reserves and taxes and the whole thing. We need a balanced budget that meets our revenues, a balanced budget without using any reserves. We cannot use the reserves. One of the social media comments, 90% of the social media comments about the city is false. They say, well, the city is getting these revenues and they're hiding them away. For the public record, we have $17 million in reserves. And according to our city finances, we need about $15 million to meet our cash obligations. So we don't, practically, we don't have reserves to spend. We need, probably that was from Gil Rojas about 4 or 5 years ago. Probably now the $17 million in reserve is needed to cover our cash flow. So people need to know that we're not hiding money. Whatever money we have, we need to spend it on our basic priorities to keep providing service to the public. Thank you. It's very good. I think all the comments from my colleagues were very well taken, and I think that we continue to refine that process and have an action plan that works and makes our city a better city.
So
okay.
What we'll do is we'll refine the document, taking in council's comments, and come back to you in a couple months with timeframes and departments and staff assigned to it.
Fantastic. Excellent. Okay. Future agenda items. Any comments? Council member subcommittee reports. Council member Diaz.
Where's the part where I get to ask for something?
To ask.
Maybe was it future agenda?
Future agenda. Go ahead.
So, and then I'll comment. I think I'm very concerned about the federal budget and the impact it'll have on our CDBG and home funding. And I would love to send a letter that we all sign to somebody at the federal government, or maybe even the president, that CDBG dollars are used locally and home funds are used locally to achieve a lot of the community and infrastructure needs that local communities have. So if you guys want to send that letter, I think that would be great.
They haven't made the decision yet, but as soon as they do it, I think it's a good idea.
Well, that's the whole point, is it's proposed, and we should send a letter before the decision is made, before it's too late.
We will monitor the situation on the federal government level, and if there is any funding cuts, we'd love to have the council look at it.
We'll put that on our list and keep an eye on it.
Okay.
So after it's cut, we'll send a letter?
No, we will monitor it and see. There isn't a proposed legislation to cut the CDBG yet.
Let me first just assess where it is,
Right.
and then we can give you some advice on whether or not it'd be prudent to send a letter right away.
All right, and then I don't have a subcommittee report, but I do have a community report. The San Pasqual High School varsity dance team won a state championship a couple of weeks ago, and they won several titles at the national championship for dancing last weekend. So there's a team of 11 girls at San Pasqual High School, and they are superb athletes, and dancing is a really tough sport, and we have apparently one of the best teams in the country at several different forms of dance. So that was really great news. Because it's good for Escondido to have championship teams at any sport. So the news didn't cover it. I know if it had been a football team, there would have been more coverage, but it's a dance team, but still, it's good news for our community.
Also, our interim city manager is looking at the message, a unified message from the city to really counter the bad news from the social media and other outlets. We have a lot of success stories and good stories to tell. That's one of them about the high school team. Okay, Councilmember Gallo.
Let me start off with, we had a bad weekend at North County Transit, the coastal corridor. We had a fatality on Friday. We had a non-fatality injury on Saturday, and we had another fatality on Sunday. So now we're averaging more than one fatality a month. That's not good. I mean, John said today you can't legislate intelligence or whatever the heck it was. And as some of you may be aware that I do these stupid unofficial surveys. And I think Mike and John, you'll like this one. Friday night at Cruising Grand was the opening night, probably the biggest opening night they've ever had. So as I'm leaving, I'm walking through Maple Street Plaza, and there were a group of about probably somewhere between 12 and 15 teenagers, old boys, on their bikes. And it was kind of interesting. They were like in a circle, facing each other. And I walked past them, and then it hit me. I went back and I asked a couple of the guys, I said, we're going to build a BMX track in Escondido. Would you go there? And they said, well, yeah. I said, hey, did you hear that? They're going to build. So that was a lot of approval. That was my little stupid survey. We talked a lot about some, yeah. Hey, I could market that. Thank you, John, Mike. SB 1 is another bill that basically is a job killer. That's our gas tax increase and vehicle registration and everything else. Now, North County Transit, would like to have the transit money. And here's what I got from our government government affairs person. 3 bullet points. Increase the incremental sales tax on diesel fuel that goes to the State Transit Assistance Program by 3.5%. Then increase the incremental sales tax on diesel fuel another 0.5% for wherever Go Jamaica Fund or something. And then establish a new transportation improvement fee under the vehicle license fee law. So you're looking for a lot of additional expenses. And once the gas and diesel fuels increase their prices, well, businesses don't bury that cost increase. So everything you own or everything you buy is going to cost more. I mean, that's the natural phenomena of it. And that includes, because of diesel fuel, there's so many trucks out there that deliver building supplies and, flooring and carpeting and paint and all this kind of stuff. So guess what's going to happen to your housing prices? Everybody's talking about affordable housing. It ain't going to be going down, folks. It's going to be going up. Anyway, the Borders Committee meeting, this was probably the best meeting that I like all year long because it's a joint meeting on binational regional opportunities with the municipalities of Tijuana, Tecate, Playa de Rosarito, and the state of Baja California. And they meet, and the Sandag boardroom was just overfull with all these folks. And I was sitting next to a councilwoman from Tijuana, Yvette Casillas. And so I was asking her about the governance in Tijuana, and this is how they were. They have 15 council members, okay? The mayor, whoever runs for mayor, picks 7 more people to run with him. So he's a slate of 8, all right? So now they have the majority because there's only 15 total. So the mayor is the only one that gets elected, but the 7 other people come along with him. And so they're also elected by default. They're elected for a 3-year term, and they can be reelected 1 time for a 2-year term. And then that's it, you're out. So her goal, I remember she told me, my goal is to be mayor. She just got elected last year. You know, she went in with whoever the current mayor is. And so 5 or 6 years from now, look for Yvette Casillas to run for mayor of Tijuana.
Do we need an assembly bill to change?
A really sharp girl. Well, young woman, I guess. San Diego Water Authority. Well, you heard Maureen Stapleton at the last meeting talk about the global recognition for outstanding achievement. The project was recognized as one of the most important water infrastructures built in the world over the last 2 decades for its superior civil engineering ability while making a significant contribution to the profession and society. I tell you, we got one great CEO down there. This one here is kind of interesting.
Quickly.
Pure Water San Diego. All right? Joined local breweries to stage public events in March to introduce the use of advanced treated purified water in the brewing of craft beers. Stone Brewing World Bistro and Gardens, that's where the event was held for the tasting of, this is the new beer that they have, Full Circle Pale Ale.
Okay.
Oh boy. Okay. And Mayor Faulkner drank the first glass at the event. This is pretty important. This is the summer 2017 Citizens Water Academy. I think I mentioned this once before. The nominations are due April the 12th. Applications are due by April the 19th. The events are being held May 17th, May 23rd, Wednesday the 17th, Tuesday the 23rd, and Saturday, June 3rd. And it's really a good event. You learn a whole lot about our water, where it comes from, how it gets here, and why it costs so much. AB, since we're talking about assembly bills, AB 869 is a bill, I don't know why nobody thinks about this stuff in the beginning, to exclude recycled water from future reductions. In other words, when the governor calls for reduction in water use, now we'll be able to exclude, if you're using reclaimed water, you don't have to reduce that because it's already been used once. So it's not a big deal. And we still have to get rid of it. So that's one of the smart ones. There's tons of bills. They have 1,000, okay, since March 1st, that's last month, 1,028 bills have been amended. Now we're only talking about 3 months here. This is what goes on in Sacramento. You wonder why we have goofy laws coming out of there?
Also, what the San Diego Water Authority has recommended, we will come back to the council with a resolution, whatever the recommendation was. Right, Mike?
Yes, I've already prepared one, and we'll get that.
Okay.
Get that for the 26th.
Okay.
Another thing that the authority is going to be doing is, I don't know if any of you have seen Livenhain Dam, but you know it's pretty big. We're going to be putting micro wind turbines across the catwalk, okay, to generate electricity. Plus, we have, here's the other generators. We have 4.5 megawatts at Rancho Penasquitas, 40 megawatts at Livenhain Hodges Pump Station facility, roads up and down, 1.5 megawatts at Twin Oaks Valley. We're going to have, also at Livenhain, we're going to create 6 megawatts with floating solar. okay? I mean, you got all this water out there, you can't swim in it, and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to get these floating panels, and it's going to take some engineering to do this. You know, it's pretty cool the way they work it out, so that we can capture electricity on the water.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Last word.
Okay. I think I had some more important stuff too.
We need to tighten up this report to have the highlights. And I know they're all good information, but we need to tighten it up to talk about the highlight of the things. Councilmember Masson.
I always got to have the bottom.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo took all my time. I got to be really brief. So I was at League of Cities last week for 2 days in Ontario. The biggest buzz and the biggest discussion was about the transportation funding package. It's a pretty massive tax hike. It should double the amount of money we receive for our roads. It's indexed for inflation. So my gut tells me it's going to pass. I wish Sacramento would figure out a better way to give us back our road money without having to raise taxes, but I don't think I'm going to have any control over that. Let's see. So we took positions on the Economic Development and Community Housing Policy Committee on 3 assembly bills, Bill 190, 565, and 886. One's on design review timelines. One was on building standards, alternative building regulations, and another one was relative to SAFE, Create, Work, and Live Act. All 3 of these got shut down in flames, which I'm very happy about, and I'm sure our staff was too. Let's see. I had a little presentation about IFDs. On the Environmental Policy Committee meeting, we looked at 3 Senate bills, adopted our work program, which includes California CEQA reform, community choice aggregation, delta water conveyance, and stormwater issues. The SB 5 was it's from De Leon. It's a $3 billion bond, California Drought, Water, Parks, Climate, Coastal Protection, and Outdoor Access for All Act of 18. It's got everything thrown into one thing, and it's crazy. So we took a position to watch that. There's too many things going on, and it scares me when you throw all that stuff into one bill. 2 others. One was local government fees and charges. That was SB 231 Hertzberg. That would enable us. They want to mess with the terminology of what sewer means. That it includes storm water, also not just what we flush down the toilet.
Restrictions.
That our committee was like, it passed to support that 21-20. So it was basically half against and half for, and the half that was against it was essentially saying, hey, that's a kind of a dupe on the voters to mess with language. If you want to do this, it should go back to the voters. Anyway, so that passed. And then school facilities, water capture design standards, SB 541, that is basically requiring schools to deal with stormwater and work with cities to mitigate for stormwater, just like the MS4 permit has to do. And that also passed at the committee level. The other thing was, it was interesting, there's a flood protection update, and this is the insanity that goes on within our government. Where's my sheet? There is, the way hydrology and water runoff works is there's Manning's equation, and there's these calculations that are done based on these annual events, whether it's a 5-year storm, 10-year storm, 100-year storm. Here it is. So our this is from let's see. No, hey, easy go. Department of Water Resources and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 2013. They are basically creating and funding projects based on a 500-year flood event, essentially a statistically impossible event. And that's what they're creating funding based off of. It's absolutely crazy. We barely see a 100-year event in our lifetime, if ever, right? So it just tells you where this stuff is going to get into our pockets to build these things that we don't necessarily need. So it was just absolutely mind-boggling. So anyway, that was it. I felt pretty good about some of those bills and bad about others, and we'll continue to fight the fight.
Councilmember Muraska.
Can I ask John a question about something
Yes,
he said? Clean water in schools?
Can you push?
I did push. I'm on.
Okay, go ahead.
You said something about clean water in schools, and I wonder if there was any mention or any bill that has to do with making sure that drinking water in schools is safe, because old schools have old pipes that have lead in them, and it's a concern. In San Diego, there was a school where a dog wouldn't even drink the water, and that's how they discovered the water was really bad there, and so we probably need to address it statewide. The dog knew.
Yeah, this is just relative to stormwater and making I'm on.
No, go ahead.
Relative to stormwater and having the State Department of Education work with local municipalities.
But not drinking water.
Not drinking water. And there's all kinds of drinking water bills that come through the legislature, and I'm not aware of anything right now, but there's probably something there that speaks to the lead part. They probably do exist, but I don't know about funding resources.
Mike, push the button. Muraska.
I'm on.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to divert a little bit, just tell you something very personal. So 50 years ago, Ed and Elsie Morosco brought their family to Escondido. We moved to Escondido. They bought a house on Montemar. I think it's in Ed's district. And that's where they've lived since moving to Escondido. My father passed away back in 2001, and 2 nights ago my mom passed away in the same home. Many of you may have known Elsie Morosco as the Avon lady, because she sold Avon for 47, almost 48 years, and did so up into her 90s. She passed away at age 92 at our home, and just wanted to say we miss you, Mom, and we love you. And anyone who may be interested in the services, please feel free to contact me via my city information, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Sandag, we have passed the $1.3 billion budget. Normally, a little bit over $1 billion goes for infrastructure and capital improvement, and the rest for operation of public transit and other operational issues. We did put more money with the retirement fund. When we asked our employees, the same thing we did here in Escondido, to pay their 8%. We took this 8% and put it in the pension emergency fund, and we're building those. We're putting about a couple of $1 million a year. And our actuary consultant told us to keep the money in Sandag, earn interest, and that would be the best for us. It saved Sandag $29 million by reducing the liability with that emergency fund. We will have a press release on April 14. April 14, Sandag Board of Directors meeting. It's on the executive committee. I am on that. And then we're going to decide to take a position on AB 805. And then it's going to go to the board at 10 o'clock at the same time, and the board will take a position. I'm going to have a press conference down there with all the mayors to express our opposition to AB 805. The county selection committee have extended my term to the end of the year, so I will continue to be the chairman of LAFCO for 1 full year. So that's good. We're going to concentrate on these islands and annexations as well. The county selection committee will meet in a couple of weeks to vote on the representation on the Coastal Commission. And those normally are recommendation by the mayors to send it to Sacramento, and the decision will be made by the, I think, by the governor's assistant governor or yes, right. So they will make that decisions, and I think we will make that recommendation. We have made 3 recommendations last time, and they turned it down, so it's up to them. Okay. The city manager update report is attached here, and oral communications. I don't have any requests. We don't have council meetings the next couple of weeks, so our next council meeting is April 26th. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.